Hey everybody, Gary with Basecamp Trading. Take a look at a nice short setup that we had in U.S. Treasury bonds this morning. You could see that bonds has been pushing up. You know, we've had Fed rate cuts and all kinds of things that would send bonds higher. But then on the 30-minute chart here, we started to change trend slightly. We had a slightly lower right here, followed by a lower high, followed by a lower low, followed by another lower high. And right here is where we were trading this morning. We had this push up in bonds and then left this big topping tail right here. And the entire body of this bar was selling also. So at this point, we're leaving a very bearish shooting star and we're looking for a short trade. The next bar causes the 5 and the 13 to cross to the downside and triggers the shooting star to the downside. Now the moving averages aren't perfectly aligned here. 5 and 13 have crossed to the downside. However, the 50 is still above the 200 and price is still above the cloud. But again, this was a bearish setup. The trend in bonds on the 30-minute chart had changed. We were making lower highs, lower lows, so now we're in a downtrend on the 30-minute chart. And also, look what momentum was doing. Momentum was also making lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. So we have weakening momentum and we have a trend change and a very bearish shooting star set up right here. This bar triggers it to the downside and bonds make a nice strong move to the downside. Good for more than $2,000 per contract. This is how that looked on the Unirenko chart. Again, Unirenko chart is one of our primary trading charts. This is where it was leaving the big topping tail. As this moved down, it was leaving that big topping tail. Set up the bear flag. Bear flag triggers on this bar right here. And then we just use Momentum Trender Pro to guide us lower. And now bonds, they trade a little different than other products. Bonds move a little slower and they rarely rip in one direction or the other. You get kind of this just steady flow in one direction with bonds. They tend to trend better. So you get into the trade. We typically use a 5 to 6 tick stop in bonds. And we get into our trade, place our stop, and let it go. And this particular trade, even on this pullback right here initially, the initial pullback only took 2 ticks worth of heat. No big deal. We already had our first target off. Took a couple ticks worth of heat. And then it just slowly worked its way lower the rest of the way down. We lock in profits. Once we hit $1,000 per contract, we're going to lock that in. As we cruise lower, we hit $2,000 per contract. We lock that in. It actually went lower than that, pulled back, took us out. But a nice, solid textbook shooting star off the 30-minute in the bond market this morning.